Good evening. This is Professor Rush back again with OO, this time to clear up a few issues, and OO discusses more about his cosmology. Here is OO.
John? Are you there, John?
John, oh John, are you there, John? Eat the book and prophesize as before. Ha 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 ha. Just a little personal joke. Are you there, John? I don't have all millennium.
Excuse me, boss, but the converter and the chalk.
Will you please not bother me with that issue right now? I know you don't like the food and the converter is being fixed as we speak. It seems like every time I initiate a long distance call, one of you has a crisis. You say the converter is fixed. Well, what's the problem? Oh, it's saying bad things to you? The converter is not programmed for language. We shut that off a long time ago. Oh, it's speaking now. Well, what is it saying? You should be on a diet? So what's the problem? You're fat. Who reprogrammed the converter? I'm going to give him, her, or it a raise. I'm sorry your little, excuse me, your big feelings are hurt. Would you rather I told you what a beautiful and handsome body you had, rather than the truth? How about pleasantly plump? Okay, you want me to lie a little like that. Okay. Well, I'm sorry you're fat. Now go back to work. As the great Nundar once said, what lies at the bottom of your ocean is more important than the ocean itself. So you have some bailing to do. And, oh yes, try and walk in the middle of the ship. Some days when you're especially mobile, I feel I'm riding on a butterfly. Oh, what? What? We're on? We're connected? And the translator too? Well, hello, John.
Yes, I'm here, OO. Problems with staff?
Yes, like children sometimes.
And you called somebody fat.
Yes, fat, obese, big mama. If she was traveling on United, she would have to pay for 3 seats. Hauling ass means taking 3 trips. Anyway, good to hear your voice, John. By the way, before I continue with our cosmic origin story, I have a couple of things to clear up.
Okay, but that sounded pretty rough.
Yes, I suppose it would seem harsh and belittling. I can understand that, yes. But you don't understand the whole story about Sanjiet. She, well, not really a she in your sense. Anyway, she has been on this vessel for over a year. Very smart, great sense of humor. That's important here, John. And for the first 6 months, all she did was complain about her weight, that she wasn't attractive, on and on. And so we all encouraged her, told her it was genetic, not her fault, on and on. She gained more and more weight and was always at the converter. So one day, while she was on a rant, sort of like you sometimes, John, and so I simply said to her, if you would keep your head out of the feed trough, you would lose weight. Well, Ever since I've been telling her the truth about herself and her behavior, she has lost substantial weight. Now, when she left here just now, she wasn't crying. She and the crew were laughing. As I said, she has a wonderful sense of humor.
So, what's your boggle?
Boggle, boggle. Yes. Amazing, shocking, surprising, confusion. Yes, I'm confused. Who is Bill Maher, and why is he so interested in Ann Romney's ass? Excuse me, buttocks.
How in the world did you hear about that? Anyway, okay. Ann Romney is Mitt Romney's wife, the current Republican contender for Obama's job. You see, Chicago-style politics are very simple. It means that the means justify the ends. And Hillary Rosen, who indirectly works for the Obama re-election committee, was sent out to continue the divide and conquer politics common in this administration. In this case, attempting to divide women, those who are in the business of raising kids and taking care of the household economics and upkeep, and those who have chosen to enter the workforce and take care of that business, the business of making money. And of course, there are those who do both and usually turn the education of their children over to the government school system, where you learn the moon is made out of green cheese and other silly things.
Why would Rosen's remark divide people?
Actually, it's the way Rosen delivered the message, implying that housewives don't have to do anything, that they don't work. Raising children is probably the most demanding thing a person can do, unless, of course, you hand the children over to a grandparent or a daycare center or whatever. As I listened to Rosen, I could hear guilt and remorse over something. Anyway, Bill Maher is a comedian, and his type of humor involves satire, sometimes political, sometimes personal, and so on. Maher made it even more personal because of his peculiar interest in Mrs. Romney's buttocks. Maher was adding insult to injury, but because he's a comedian, he isn't to be taken seriously, and he shouldn't be harassed over this. Rosen, however, should be, in order to show the tactics. In her case, divide and conquer. Obama is in on all these tactics, that is, divide and conquer, playing the race card, disruption of polling places, and so on. Obama will not relinquish power easily, and will use every dirty Chicago thug trick to remain in president. In my opinion, he would start World War III to stay in power.
Yes. It seems you humans will go to no lengths to screw yourselves. Sorry, John, I can't think of another word to describe your government's relationship to its citizens that would be acceptable to you. I suppose I could say copulate yourselves, but that loses something in the translation. By the way, John, I have another term that I'm struggling with. What was that word you used? Yes, the word is integrity. I can look it up in data. It seems your idea of integrity is a bit different than the data.
Okay, integrity. I feel like I'm in a spelling bee here. There are two different types of integrity: that which is absolutely necessary within a group or within a nation if stress is to remain low, quality decisions are to be made, and people prosper. It all comes down to the messages you send and receive. Thus, integrity is keeping your word, meaning what you say, not lying and distorting information or resorting to bribery and extortion when dealing with others. The second type of integrity is how you treat outsiders, because there is a different set of rules depending on one's relationship toward outsiders. Governments seen as a threat, for example, might be lied to. Information might be distorted. People might be bribed and extortion resorted to in order to protect the citizens, the in group. Deception is part of our animal nature. Deception of one type or another is used by all predators, from my feral cats making bird calls to attract birds, the leopard's spots, and so on. What humans use to deceive are complex symbols that we speak and write. But when we deceive within groups, within families, for example, when husbands deceive wives, when wives deceive husbands, when employers deceive employees, when presidents, senators, and the news media deceive us for their own selfish political and economic purposes, they actually place themselves outside of their group, not to be trusted. People you do not trust, you marginalize. Their information cannot be trusted. You can't trust anything Obama and his lieutenants have said. It is unlikely that they even trust each other.
Hmm, I see. This clears it up.
Now, I realize our time is short, so I have a couple of things I would like to discuss with you.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. You ended last time making a trade of some of your personnel for something. Does your species engage in slave trade?
Ah, slave trade? You mean that I would own another species and do what I would want with them? No, no, John. The Samians are part of an exchange system, so they can be properly trained on various technology. Although messy, they are very, very smart when it comes to improvising technology to accomplish certain complicated tasks. They just seem to have a knack for fixing things too. But for the Samians, it is better for them to be on a planet where they're synergistic creatures as they do little damage to rocks and such. I think you can understand that. It has taken the ruling some time to catch up with the reality that not only are there synergistic creatures not designed for interstellar travel, neither are the Samians. So, no, we do not engage in slave trading. Now, you folks, according to the data, have been involved in trading human flesh for thousands of years, and it's still going on, even in your own country. You are such a primitive species, you don't even recognize your own capabilities. Anyway, we left off last time with one of our cosmic origin stories. Cosmic origin stories. Yes, there are so many of these, John.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I guess slavery can mean many, many things. So, getting back to cosmology, and before we get to your current story, what does the universe mean? I guess what I'm asking is, what is the universe?
Okay, and this will sound a bit, shall I say, selfish, but I want to go from myself to the larger picture. As the great Nandar said, I always thought I was more important than that which was trying to kill me. Out here, John, you are really no larger than a speck of stardust. Out here, it's not so much that things happen quickly, it is that they can happen unexpectedly. And try as you might, you cannot build sensors for the unexpected. There are probabilities and possibilities where crew members are lost on missions to sites, and the unusual methods the different species use to defend their physical territories. And you know when the converter crashes and you can't get your large piece of chocolate cake, as was the case with my fat friend. You should hear what she calls me, by the way. I can't say it because you wouldn't accept it. In any case, the meaning of the universe. I guess the meaning is whatever you think it is at your level of consciousness. For many of you Earthlings, you believe that some supernatural agency brought all this into being. This type of consciousness will never answer the larger questions, nor will this type of consciousness ever attempt to go past this type of infantile reasoning. To me, and I suppose most of us more advanced species, no offense, John, just the truth, the universe does not have a meaning as such. In fact, it's the wrong question to ask. You see, John, when you ask for meaning of something, it implies that you don't understand. You don't feel comfortable saying you don't know something. And you are then into storytelling, myth making, and mysticism, or what you might term philosophy or religion. To us, the universe is simply information of various categories. And if there is any meaning to this, then it is to explore the universe, understand it, and then we will know what it means. Kind of circular, but the meaning of the universe is to understand it. You can't possibly understand the meaning of the universe, its inner workings, right down to what happens in, shall we say, the center of a black hole, until you ask the right questions instead of merely centering on accepting assumptions and opinions as fact. Anyway, we left off last time with one of our cosmic origin stories. There are so many of these, John.
Okay, I'm getting a slim idea of how you see the universe and yourselves. That is, you aren't ants in an anthill or an incorporating being like the Borg on Star Trek. But how does that rather personal, survival oriented psychology translate into new cosmology? Your view of what this is, what we are experiencing, for obviously you have a nervous system that in many ways is like ours, or at least we seem to be translating the world around us in a very similar manner.
Yes, you are correct. We did see things like you do, but a long, long time ago. We too envisioned a maker, a being with powers beyond our comprehension, and indeed many people worshipped this being and tried to get its attention through ritual and so on. But then something happened. It was gradual, but noticeable in people. Our consciousness seemed to jump to some higher level, what you call octaves in music, which is really an expression of the language of the universe. We're not quite sure how this shift happened. Our current belief is that the shift was possible all the time. It was a matter of pulling ideas and concepts together, not dogma, not the supernatural stuff, but the stuff necessary for understanding how all this that we experience works, and then using that practical information to push, to explore even further. You folks have been attempting to do this for some time now, but you have silly people who make decisions on your planet. It is obviously impossible for them to see the larger picture and your future needs. When we began this shift from storytelling and myth to a concerted effort to explain all this, it was almost a straight line, very little resistance. Perhaps it was the realization that our world, like yours someday, was coming to an end. More and more we abandoned the old philosophies and began to see ourselves for what we were. Stardust, John, stardust. And then it was the great Nundar who promoted the idea of following the trail back to find out where the stardust came from. Our time had come. Our gestalt shift, you might say, was permanent. We can see the other way, the belief in supernatural beings. We can go back for a visit, but we don't want to live there. This is probably why, John, we can communicate and share each other's symbols. We have similar developmental stages, but this is not the case with certain other species. Anyway, our current cosmology fits better with your M theory or membrane or P-brain theory, with the different dimensions visualized as strings or tubes occupying some sort of space, which the strings actually create. Now, there may be two membranes, there may be 200, but there are at least two. These membranes never touch each other. They push against each other. When the membranes approach, they both emit the same, shall we say, charge, thus repelling each other. Now, this is where it gets curiouser and curiouser, as Alice once said. Although we can only detect two membranes, and we are in neither of them, but between them, there has to be some ripple or wave that force the membranes together very rapidly, thus altering the condition of the repelling charges. These charges annihilated each other, forcing the membranes further apart than would normally be, and through this annihilation a gaseous material emerged, which eventually cooled and became what you folks have already mathematically determined is the tangible universe as we experience it. Now here is the secret, John, and I don't pretend to think you will understand it, but someone out there might catch on, and that is gravity. Yes, gravity. Why does anything have any weight at all? Gravity, John, is actually an echo caused at the point where the two positive charges annihilated each other. In other words, what I will call surfaces of the two membranes are vibrating, and these vibrations are what pull on this tangible matter and cause what we call gravity. But gravity is not a constant. It changes with time. And in fact, these pulses are what cause what you and I perceive as time. Excuse me for one moment, John.
Sorry to bother you, boss, but our sensors are picking up a debris field with unusually high levels of organic matter.
I see. That simply cannot be. Sorry, John, this is one of those unexpected things I mentioned. For if this is what I think it is, well, anyway, I'll be back. I love that line.